Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk about me being adopted from Peru in Lima, which is the capital. I've decided to make this video just because me and my husband are, well, we've been talking about going to Peru for quite a long time really. We always knew we wanted to go to Peru. I'm saying we. I have always known that I wanted to go back to Peru. Either to go there and do all the touristy things, like go and see Machu Picchu and go and have a look in Lima and go and see around the place where I was born. However, I've always had in my mind that I wanted to go and find my birth parents. Like, well, I've never actually found out that I was adopted. There's never been when my mum has said like, like she sat me down and said, oh, you adopted. There's never been anything like that, and I think it's difficult to try and explain to people who don't really know. So I'm making this video basically. I've just started a whole load of stories without finishing them. I will finish them. Basically, I haven't got any makeup on. Can I just explain this? I've got an ear infection in one ear, and so I've just got no makeup on. I've got my 90 on, and I'm having to use this Ottomize ear spray. So this is why I look like this, and I've got no makeup on and a bit spotty. But I thought because of that, I just thought it's going to be an honest video, and I don't care. I just wanted to have no makeup on for a change in one of my videos. So I'll get started. I don't know where to start from. So basically, I was adopted when I was 6 months old from Peru. I was born in April 1989. I was adopted in October 1989, I think. Now, I'm probably going to get all this information wrong, but like, I don't always take everything in. Like, I know this story roughly, but basically my parents, my mother and my father, both wanted to adopt a child. They had already had 2 children of their own, which were 2 girls, so they're my big sisters. They are, God, it's going to be confusing now. I think one of them's 12 years older and one of them's 14, or it could be older, I'm not sure. I'll have to work it out. So yeah, they, obviously we've got a big, like, there's a big age difference. So yeah, they had 2 daughters at home basically, and they, I think they said, I could be wrong on this, it took them roughly about 2 years to basically, from saying I think we want to adopt to then going through everything. Now, as far as I'm aware, they both had to go to Peru and stay there for a while in some flats in Lima. There was also other people there as well. I think she said there was people from Scotland, Americans, Canadians, French, Germans. There was everyone in these flats or living around the area who wanted to adopt babies. Now I think they could request that they either would like a boy or a girl, or there might have even been an option where you don't get a choice. You just say, I either want just a baby, anyone anyone who comes up. So I think my mum said a girl, just because she'd already got 2 girls and she knows girls really, which is fine. It's fair enough. Some people might disagree with that. I personally don't, even though I have no children of my own yet. But I just think if you're already used to like all girls or all boys, then it's a bit different, I think, and especially when you're adopting. But that's my personal opinion, and obviously that's all I know. So yeah, so basically she went out, she flew out there, and she, I think the social workers there, she obviously had to do quite a lot of things over in England and sign papers or whatever, and they had to come and check that the house was like acceptable to raise a baby and everything else, that the baby would fit in and all that kind of thing. I mean, I don't actually know, and it obviously probably changed a lot from then till now. I know it was quite hard. I think it's probably still quite hard to adopt. Like, anyone can't just say, oh, I'm going to adopt. Like, it's just not an easy decision. You can't just take a decision like that lightly. You can't just say, 1 minute, oh, I fancy adopting a baby, that'd be nice, you know. and it depends on like your income, it depends on a lot of things really. I think it's important to consider that. So yeah, she went out there with her husband at the time, and she stayed out there, and then I think it was just waiting for babies to come up for adoption or to be ready, and then somebody said, yes, there's a baby girl who is waiting to be adopted, do you want to go ahead? And she said yes. So, and again, I could be wrong, I'm not sure when she handed me over, my birth mum. I remember mum saying that there was like a mesh screen, and I don't even know where they were, in an office or in a church or in the wherever the lawyers are, I'm not sure. But basically, she said she could see my birth mum through the mesh glass. She couldn't really see her, but she could just see like the outline of her and her holding me. And in my head, she's like kissing me and stuff, and she's crying. And she did say she was crying. And my birth mum, she said, oh, if she doesn't want to do this, it's fine. Just don't do it. It's fine. Like, you don't have to do this. Like, it's okay. Can you tell her that she doesn't have to? If she's changed her mind, don't let her do it. And I think it was I don't know who he was, but he just said, no, she is. And so he kind of grabbed me off her and just gave her to my mum who adopted me. And I was like, oh God. And she said, yeah, I just felt like it wasn't done, not properly, but I mean, you don't know because of the language barrier, because really, thinking now, because my sisters both have children and my in-laws have had children, and thinking of the age, 6 months, you've had quite a lot of time with your little baby then, and I just think, how can she have done that? How can she have given up a child? Like, not in a bad way. I can't imagine the strength that you must have to do that, and to know in your head that you're doing the right thing. And maybe she didn't know she was doing the right thing at the time. She probably didn't know she was doing the right thing, and she probably didn't know what was happening, and maybe it was just a spur of the moment, like, this has to happen. Financially, she wasn't in a good situation. She already had a daughter, I think he was 2, maybe a bit younger, but she's my half sister. I was the first one with her then boyfriend or husband. I'm not sure if they were ever married, but my birth mum was called Rosa, and I know my dad was called Julio. And so then my mum and dad, they took me away, and then I stayed with them in the flats in Lima, because my mum had to sign more papers, and then they had to get the social side to check that everything was okay with me. She said when she handed me over, I was really underweight. I had scabies, I had head lice, I was riddled with everything. It was, hearing these stories is gross. So she took me to the doctors. She gave me lots of milk, and I just fattened up like I was a big, like, roly-poly child. No, I was a healthy weight. So, I think she had to go to Lloyd's again. I think she saw Rosa at one point as well. She briefly, like, kind of, this must have been like a couple of weeks after. And she said to me, she'd noticed a bit of a change in her, because she'd had a perm and she'd had her nails done. And she said, I wasn't sure what had happened, if they'd got any money for it or if they'd done something. But I think she'd basically said, we don't know if this is true or not, but I think because my dad at the time he was ill, he had TB, and at the time they couldn't afford any medication. But when I was born, I had my TB injection as soon as I was born, because I think it must have been because he already had it. Said I'm not sure what happened, if they got any money, but we think they might have got some chickens to start off a farming kind of business. And then I thought to myself, this could seem like quite bad to some people, like you've just given up your child and then you're going out, you're getting all dolled up, and you're just kind of doing whatever. However, in my life, when I've been really down, I thought, I couldn't think of anything worse than doing anything. I always, oh God, this is going to sound awful, but like when I feel really low, I remember one time at university, I just went into Manchester town centre, went to Selfridges, sat there and had all my makeup done, and I just felt better. I had all my makeup done, probably spent a load of money. And I just thought, if I'd have given up a child, I would have wanted to, like, anybody to make me feel better, anything or anyone, whether it's having a haircut, get my nails done, going out for a meal, just something to make me feel normal again. Like, if you're going through any trauma or anything in your life, you just want something to make you feel better, make you feel good. And I thought, yeah, I can kind of see why she did that, really. I don't blame her for any of that. So, yeah, so basically, she stayed there only for a couple more weeks, and she brought me home. And there's lots of pictures of me with my sisters. My sisters, like, seeing me for the first time and holding me. And it was all very exciting, and people came around to visit and everything. And actually, we still kept in contact with, I think there was some people adopting, I think it was 2 little girls in Scotland, and we kept in touch with them. So it would be interesting to kind of hear their kind of story as well, and if they feel the same way I do about things. Like, I don't know what other people have been told, but I know a lot of the questions that I get asked, which kind of is frustrating for me when I hear of people who are trying for a baby and they do not consider adoption whatsoever. Like, a biggest thing is, I don't think they'll love me as much as somebody who is from me. Like, I've made them, they're my own child, and they'll probably always want to go and find their birth parents. This question really annoys me. Like, maybe some people who've been adopted will. However, my mum has always raised me with an identity. Like, from reading other YouTubers and seeing what they've put, I've always had an identity. She said, when people ask you where you're from or who you are and this kind of thing, because obviously there's going to be questions, because I do not look anything like my sisters. I don't look like my parents. She's always said, just tell them you're a Peruvian-born English girl. So that's all of in my head. That's what I've been telling people from when I was a little girl. That I was a Peruvian-born English girl. So, which is true, because my mum has always encouraged me to do, like, art projects based on the Incas, based on, like, Peru, and even in geography, the less economically developed country, I would always choose Peru, just to find out more about them. However, on the other hand, I do feel very English. I feel very, like, what's the word? Like, I just feel like England is my home. England is definitely where I'm from. However, it's like, when it suits me, I'm from Peru. Because obviously I don't look English. I am Peruvian on the outside, but inside I am very much English and northern. Like, I am really northern. You can hear my accent. And so this must be really weird to other people to see if they're Spanish, or if people know English people and they just assume that they're from London and will have, like, a Cockney accent or something like that. It's just, it makes me laugh, actually. It's quite funny. So, yeah, my mum has never, ever sat me down and said I'm adopted. She's always kind of, I don't really know, because I can't remember, and a lot of people are like, can you not remember when she told you? I'm like, well, no. But then I was thinking today, when do you actually find out that your nan is your nan? When do you find out that your granddad's your granddad? When do you find out that that's your auntie? You don't. You just know, and you automatically know that they are related to you. Even though from when you were a baby, like, oh, here she is, here's auntie whoever, here's nanny. And you don't know who these people are, though, at that stage. So we were lucky enough to have some pictures. My mum said she would have liked to have kept in contact with my birth parents and send them pictures of me, how I was doing, to show that I was thriving, to show that basically that she did a good thing, like, to show that, you know, putting myself in my birth parents' shoes. If I was to do that, I would think, oh my word, who am I giving my child to? Are they going to have a good life? Have I done the right thing? And what if they're really sad and really unhappy? So I think by having some photos, you can kind of see that, oh look, I've done the right thing. Well, you might not think that, but you can see there's photos of me thriving, smiling, and all this kind of stuff. So my mum wrote a letter to the translator because there was apparently to be no contact between the birth parents and the adoptive parents. But my mum wrote to the translator and she said, yes, I'll take some pictures. And so we swapped pictures. So I only have one set of pictures that I kept really, like, we kept them in a special album, and we could only like visit them on special occasions. Well, I could obviously see the photos whenever I wanted to, but they were kept really neat in a nice photo album and stuff. So we could see who I looked like and who I look more like my dad, which is Julio, than my mum. But it was interesting to see for me because we all have. Because a European figure is completely different to a Peruvian figure. That's the only way I can kind of describe it, really. Because when I was growing up and when you're a teenager, everybody goes through like that hormonal change, and you all gain weight and you lose it, and then all this kind of stuff. And you grow taller. However, it was difficult for me because my mum was 5'8". Yeah, she's 5'8". She lost a few inches now though, but she's 5'8" when she adopted me, so she was a tall lady. My sister, she took after her. I think she's 5'7". My other sister, however, she's 5'3", so she's a bit shorter. But I am 5'1". I think I stopped growing at 11. My biggest struggle was my figure is like a triangle. My hips are small and my chest. It's not even like I've got big boobs or anything. I haven't. It's just my actual size. The width of my chest is big. Peruvians are known to have big rib cages. So if I buy a dress, sometimes the top half of me is 2 sizes bigger than the bottom. So it can hang off me on the bottom, and then it can be really tight at the top. So that's caused a few problems. Obviously, when you're growing up and you're a teenager, it was frustrating when I saw my friends getting a little size 6 on top, and I was getting a 14 or a 16. And then on the bottoms, they were getting like a 12 or something. I was like, why can't I be like that? I want to be like that. But I suppose it's difficult for my mum as well to teach me that actually, no, everybody is different. And it's true, everybody's different. Some people could be like me, but the majority. I was like, why do you want to be like us anyway? Because, well, not us, but she said, why do you want to be like me? I've got massive hips, and you don't want massive hips in a narrow frame. You don't want that. And I'm like, I really do want massive hips and a tiny frame and stuff. So that was the only thing I thought, like, oh, like they don't know the struggle that I have. And also, I've got really tiny feet, but they're very wide, small, wide feet. And so that was another problem. I think they were 3.5. So yeah, but it's been fine. So yeah, I think my mum basically showed me pictures saying, these are your birth parents, this is where you're from, and just kind of told me the story again. And when you're little, I guess you pick up certain things, and then you just know, don't you? You just know. And to my way of thinking, if I was to adopt, I'd do the same. Like, oh look, this is who you look like, and this is where you're from. And I don't see any problem in that at all. I think if you do see a problem in that, and you want them to believe that you're their real parents, that you kind of got a problem in admitting the truth, because you have to tell the truth to your children no matter what. I believe personally they respect you a lot more for it. And I just feel like I have a good understanding on both points of view, from a birth parent's point of view and from an adoptive parent's point of view. My mum actually divorced from my dad who adopted me. So my mum will always be my mum. Like, I love her more than anything in the world. Like, and my sisters will feel the same. And also my sisters as well. Both of my sisters are my sisters. Like, and they feel the same about me. If anybody says anything bad about me, or if anybody says anything bad about them, like, it's just a normal sister reaction. And another thing is when you're growing up, is it nature or nurture? Some things I find interesting, like, kind of reading families and seeing how everybody is, because you don't know if it's nature or nurture. I found anyway, because I am a lot like my mum, which is really odd, because you, like, naturally I can't be, but I am. I sometimes come out with the same things. I'm like, oh, that's like my mum. But then on the other hand, I remember one time we went to my sister's, we always go to my sister's around her birthday in October, and we all turned up there. We all live in different places, so we all turned up, and we're wearing the exact same thing. I remember it was years ago now, but we all had like a maroon jumper on, a pinky maroon jumper. Mine was maroon, I think. My other sister was like a fuchsia pink. My other sister was like a pinky red kind of colour, with a collar up to here, and then we both wore a denim skirt and black boots. I'll never forget that, and we all wore the same thing. I was like, this is odd. Why are we all dressed up in the same thing? And obviously, it's just these things happen. Whether you're adopted, whether you're not, whether it's just your siblings, you're just as close. And if anybody out there is worried about adoption, and I think that they won't have the same closeness with their siblings, of course you will. Even with the age gap, like, my sisters mean the world to me, and so do my parents. They just mean the world to me. They really do. And I can't stress that enough. Like, I don't know, the person who brings you up is your parent, like, and that's as far as it goes, really. My birth parents are like strangers to me, because I was only 6 months old. Because people say, oh, but how do you find it over here? And I'm like, do you remember when you were 6 months old? No. Neither do I. And they're like, oh right, okay. I don't think people really know what to say to somebody who's adopted. I've got a mixture of emotions. People are like, oh, how interesting. And I like it when people ask questions, because when people ask questions, you're learning, you're finding out about somebody else, and you just ask loads of questions, and usually they say, oh, that's so interesting, and wow, how exciting, and it's nice. But the people who don't, or who just assume, it can get a bit awkward. For both, I get awkward only because I feel awkward for the other person, but that's the only reason why. And I think you just have to take everything kind of, don't be too serious about everything. I know I can be. But sometimes, like about the adoption thing, I've heard all the questions before. I've heard most things before. I think the worst response is, oh, I'm so sorry. And I think, why? Why are you sorry that I'm adopted? Like, it's a good thing. But I don't get angry at the person. I'm just said, oh no, it's actually, it's a good thing, really, because I probably would have been dead. And they're like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's very difficult to try and I don't know, to try and find the right question to ask somebody, I guess. And I will never be on the other side of the table where I have no clue about adoption at all. And there's also like adoption jokes, like my friends sometimes used to say, like, parents were so annoying, like my mum and dad were so annoying. I mean, I hope I'm adopted, really. And I'm just like, well, do you? And I'm just like, I know it's a joke, and people say that when they're obviously arguing with their parents and everything like that, but to me it's a bit odd, and it's a bit too close to home for me, that I'm just like, well, okay. The only thing that kind of, it doesn't bother me, it's just, it intrigues me really, is when my sister started to have children and I became an auntie. And obviously, because they're a lot older than me, I think my eldest sister, she had her first child at 28, and I was 12, was I? 11 or 12, I think. And I just felt so, it was the best, like, day in forever. Like, I was so excited, because I loved babies. Like, when I was little, I always used to play with dolls and Barbies and everything. I was a good player. I just loved playing with everything. I was just such a girly girl. Oh, and when I held my nephew in my arms, I was just like, oh my goodness, he's so cute, he's beautiful, he's the most precious thing ever. And then I felt this great sense of responsibility over being an auntie, like I really did. And I felt like, this is it now. I have to be like a proper person. I have to be an auntie to him. Like, it's my responsibility to be an auntie, and my responsibility to like play with him and be there for him in any way that I can be. And then I remember going around the room like, oh, he looks like you, oh, he looks like you, and I was like, oh, he doesn't look like me. And I was like, oh, he can never look like me, really. And I was like, that's a bit odd, because no one in my family will ever look like me, and I can never have that conversation. And I think it was only then that it dawned on me that, like, the only time somebody's going to look like me is when I have children of my own, and then they'll look slightly like me, maybe. But it was weird, because obviously somebody's always going to have your nose, they're going to have your eyes, they're going to have your cheeks, your lips, your ears, your whatever. They're always going to have something of you. And I know this really annoys some people, especially my friends, like, oh, I don't want to look like my mum. Or people always say I look like my mum. I'm like, why? That's such a good thing to have. It's like, it makes you who you are. And we do have the photos of my birth parents, and so we can see who I look like, which is my dad. I do look like my dad, but it's different when it's on paper to all the time when you have conversations and then you're saying, oh, you look like this person, or you look like this person. Now I become like obsessive about this to my husband, because my husband is a twin. He's a non-identical twin. So basically my husband looks more like his mum, and his brother looks more like his dad. Not completely, but they do. And then I think his sister looks a bit more like the dad. But it's so bizarre, and I'm like, I love looking at baby pictures of people and who they look like, and obviously everybody changes as well. And you are your own person, ultimately. You can never look exactly like your parents, like, even though you can, but you're you. Ultimately, you are you. So yeah, that was the only thing really, and I'm just so glad that we had pictures. Anyway, video is going to be so long right now. I'm trying to think what I should talk about next. So, I've basically been married for nearly a year now, and throughout my life, I've always known that I've wanted to go to Peru, and I've always known I've kind of wanted to see my parents. I just didn't know how it was going to be. And in my head, I thought, right, if I'm married, I can't do the trip alone. So if I'm married, I'll probably do the trip with my husband, and I definitely don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to do the same thing as me. Like, I don't want to be with somebody who has no interest in going to Peru or doing that kind of thing. So when I've been in like long-term relationships, which wasn't very often, I would discuss it and talk about it. Obviously, it wasn't a big part of like, you have to do this if you're staying with me kind of thing. It wasn't like that, but you just know from somebody if they share your same interests, whether you want to go travelling, whether you want to have children straight away, whether you want to get married. You just kind of know, or you get to know. And they could not be the right person for you anyway. So, yeah, I got together with my husband about 3 years ago, and I think 2 years ago now, I had an email on Facebook from Perla Floor. I remember this now, Perla Floor. And actually, I had the names of my birth mum, my birth dad, my half sister, and the dog. And I think we had the names of my both sets of grandparents on either side. So I think they were all written on the back of the photos. So there was Rosa, my birth mum, and Julio, my dad, and Angelica, my sister, and I'm not sure who the other ones were called, but there was like Bernardo, I think, was on my dad's side, and Zavala on my mum's side. I think it was, yeah, so I would have been Juliana, Elizabeth, Zavala, Bernardo, I think. Yeah, my birth mum actually gave me my name as well, Juliana, and it's spelled Jhuliana, which is odd because I know here in England it's not a very common name at all, especially not with the H. Everybody always misses the H out, but apparently it's the Italian way of spelling it. She gave me Juliana Elizabeth, and my mum loved the name, so she kept them. She could have changed them, but she kept them, which is nice that I've still got my name. So yeah, I got an email on Facebook from a girl called Perla Floor, and it said, oh god, I can't remember what it said, but it was really disjointed, saying, I am sister, you were taken away on whatever day, and then something else, and I just thought, I was like, oh my goodness, I thought it was a scam, and I thought, who is this person? Like, this is definitely a scam. And so I decided to block this person. And then they started to add my husband, because I was obviously in a relationship with him on Facebook, and my mum and my sister. So they all got like emails off everyone. However, I went to go on her profile at first, and because we weren't friends, I couldn't see her very many pictures of her. And so I thought, oh, I don't know who this is. And then it wasn't until, it must have been a good 6 months later, that I found in my others inbox on Facebook an email from a boy called Cesare. And I thought, who is this? And I read it, and it said, hi, I am your brother. And I was like, and it was so weird, because me and my mum, who adopted me, have always talked like, oh, they've probably got more children now. I'm like, maybe you've got a brother. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And it's odd, because we've always said maybe I have a brother for some reason. I don't know why brother and not a girl. So I had a look on his, something, I don't know what, I think I might have even blocked him first, but before I blocked him, I think I clicked on his profile and just had a quick look. I don't know what, it was a group picture of him, my half-sister, and my mum, and I hadn't seen my mum on any of these pictures on Facebook before, because I don't think she was on Facebook. And as soon as I clicked on it, I was like, she looks a bit like me. I was like, oh my goodness, I think that's her. And I remember Erin was next to me, my husband, and I was like, I really do think that's her. And so I rang my mum quickly. I was like, Mum, have a look at this photo. And so I sent the photo to her, and she said, that's her. She said, you need to get in contact with them and email them now. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've like kind of ignored them in a way and like blocked them and everything. But I thought it was a scam, and I couldn't put into words, like, obviously people get scammed all the time, don't they, especially on Facebook, and they get hold of your details and everything like that. So I was just being wary. But also, she was called Perla Flor, and some of the things that she was saying wasn't like right, really, because she said she was my sister, and I was like, well, no, she's not, she's my half sister. And so all these kind of things just were not adding up, until I realised when you go on Google Translate, it translates everything literally. So I'm really careful now to, when I go on there, I have to do everything in really plain English, because you can't use any slang, you can't do anything slightly different, because it changes the tenses, which changes the whole sentence, and which I think had happened to her. That's why it came across like, whoa. And also it was all in capitals. I was like, why are they doing it? Why are they shouting at me? So I got in contact with Cesare, and then Perla Flor really threw me, because she was called Angelica. So then we found out that it was Angelica, and from looking at her picture, she looks completely different to how I'd expected her to look, from 2 years old to now she's 28 or something. I just thought, whoa, I can't believe how different she looked. And we kind of talked via Google Translate, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I actually have a friend from university who studied Spanish and Portuguese, so I was kind of like, they sent me a big long letter and asking why what happened, over why I didn't accept them. And I sent it to my friend Ellie, and she translated it all. She says, Jules, they're being very, like, they're using their very best Spanish, and they're trying not to say anything to like offend you or anything like that. And I was like, oh no. So I sent a really long email back to Ellie, so she could then translate it all, and I'd send it back to them. After that, we decided to go on webcam, and I was with my husband at the time, and so we went on webcam for the first time. Oh, it was so exciting. And I just thought, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm doing this now. It's so weird. So it was on this little netbook that I've got here that I'm filming from, that I record each other over Facebook, actually. And my mum was sitting there, my birth mum, Rosa, in front of the camera, and it came on, and I was just like, oh! And we were both just waving and just so happy, and I was blowing kisses, and so was she, but she was like, oh! And I think she was crying a bit, and Angelica was there, and she was waving, and then I think we scrolled to it. Yeah, it was definitely Julio's, my birth dad's mother, she was there, and I remember she's so tiny, and she was sitting on this little chair, and she was like just down here, and then she went, Julio, and I was like, yes, I do, I look like your son, yes, that's true. So yeah, and we just kind of spoke, because when you're on webcam you can kind of speak and type at the same time, so I went to Google Translate and translated stuff, and we were comparing, like, we've got really tiny legs and tiny feet, and I waved an inhaler saying I'm asthmatic, and they said, so and so is asthmatic, everybody's asthmatic on that side of the family. I was like, oh great, I've inherited your lungs. So yeah, since then, which is 2 years, I think it was nearly 2 years ago, we've been in contact, not regularly, but like not every single day, but we have been in contact. I told them I was getting married, and I said that I'd obviously let them know how everything was going, and what I really wanted to do at the time was stream the wedding so they could in effect be there, but I couldn't because the church didn't have Wi-Fi, and trying to explain that to somebody was really difficult, that I couldn't film it all. So I said my agreement was that I said that I would film before I went into the church, and I tried to call them. It wouldn't. Every time it said call failed, call failed, call failed. And I was like, no, I think we got married at 1, did we? Or 12? 12 or 1, I think we got married. And every time I was like, no, I have to go. I remember the photographer was like, oh, we've got to catch this, you on Facebook on your wedding day. I was like, no, you don't understand. I wasn't going to go into too much detail to him, the photographer there, and I'm there like trying to connect to the internet frantically. And I just typed them, I was saying, so sorry, it wouldn't connect. Anyway, this was at my mum's house, because the church is literally just a tiny walk away from my mum's. So I walked to the church, got married, came back, and we had a drinks reception at my mum's. And then 2 of my friends came over and they said, George, your birth mother's trying to ring you. And I was like, really? I was like, okay. So I like ran in with my wedding dress on with Erin, my husband, and I accepted the call. And I remember we were both waving to them, and we're like, hi. And then she was crying. I was like, oh, good. And I was like, oh goodness, like I can't believe we can see you now. And so waving, and then the wedding car came, so we had to quickly dash out. So I was like, I'm really sorry we can't stay, but we're going off and everything like that. So we filmed some of the wedding though. We filmed like quite a lot of it, which is on my channel, but I need to really upload that again because he was playing Michael Jackson, and I need to basically wipe that off. So it's got no sound in it at the moment. So it's been really good. However, now I've got a husband, and now I'm kind of pretty much settled. I really want to go to Peru with my husband and visit my birth parents. I think now is going to be, I've always wanted to do it, and if I don't do it now, then I just think I'll never do it. Like I'm pretty sure I'll never do it, because then what if you start a family? I don't imagine traveling with kids, and when's the right time, and it'll cost more money. And I think when there's just me and my husband, it's just going to be so much easier getting the time off work and just going. So this is what I'm trying to do now, and I've just been researching it, looking at YouTube videos, because it's quite rare in England to find an adoptive girl that isn't adopted from England, because a lot of English people adopt other English people, and especially from Peru, because not even a lot of people from England or from around here even know where Peru is or even know anything about it. So it's been quite almost like I'm kind of like a unique story, even though I'm not, because I know that other people have been adopted from Peru, but it feels like that, because especially living up in the north of England, it's very different to living in the south of England, where maybe there are a bit more people who would know, and especially in America, like I see a lot of Americans uploading videos, but there's no videos of English people. So hopefully I'm the first Peruvian who is English on here, who I'm just kind of sharing my story and hoping to tell this story to people who want to adopt, people who want to adopt from Peru, other Peruvians who may have been adopted even around the same time as me, which is 1989. And I would love to know your stories. Like, at the moment, I'm just looking at flight costs, and I'm gonna see if I can try and get a translator as well, because unfortunately, when I went to high school, I remember when I was at primary school, I wanted to speak Spanish. I'm like, I'm going to go here and I'm going to be taught by this person, because that was who my sisters were taught by, and I'm going to speak Spanish, and then I'll do this. And it all planned out. When as soon as I got there, the Spanish sheets left, and I was like, oh. And it's only a small high school, it isn't a big high school or anything, a fancy high school, so basically we could only speak French or German. So I can understand French perfectly well, but not Spanish, unfortunately. So, that is something I'm going to have to try and learn, or I'm going to have to get a translator. I think even if I learn it, I won't be good enough, so I'm going to have to look into try and getting a translator as well. But I'd love to know everybody else's point of view from this, and hopefully I've encouraged more people to adopt, which is ultimately what I really want to do, because I think there is no better gift. And if you're worried about it or anything else, about what the child will think, it's actually good that you are worried about what the child will think, rather than just jumping straight into it and thinking I'm going to adopt, because at least you're thinking about that child. So yeah, if you have any other questions, I could talk all day long about this topic, but I won't. So just leave any comments in the comments box below, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.